Fine. Good times, ladies and gentlemen. This is the final session of the operations and analytics. The title of the session is Shaping Future Leaders Through Sustainable Operations and Analytics in Business Education for Innovative and Responsible Management. I've here with me the speakers. Let me see this. Sarah. 4, 5. Okay. I've here with me the speakers, Mr. Stanley Chufan Chan from Tema Mundi Productions. And I have here with me as well, Professor Sarah Montano from University of Birmingham. And we have here as well, Joshua Wilson, Dr. Joshua Wilson from University of Delaware. And Dale should be with us pretty soon. So I will introduce each speaker when coming to their time. Next slide, please. So first up, we have Stanley. Now, Stanley is a celebrated Chinese speculative fiction author, translator, and Berggruen Institute Fellow, renowned for his captivating narratives that tackle climate change, AI, and cybernetic society. He masterfully integrates ancient Chinese philosophies into futuristic contexts. His acclaimed works, West Tide and AI 2041, have earned him numerous literary awards and global translation, solidifying his impact on the literal world. He's award-winning author and founder. Next slide, please. Stanley, supposed to speak to us in his absence. Unfortunately, due to emergency, he cannot be here, but he did record pre-record a video for us. His topic would be why climate fiction matters. We shall play the video recording now. Just give 1 second for the secretariat to load the video. It is very interesting because I believe during this session, Stanley is the speakers that is not from the academia background, but from a liberal authorship background. It's really amazing to see what insight he's going to bring forward and what he has to say. I believe.
Apologies, Mr. Fu. We are running into some technical difficulties. Could we begin with the next speaker?
Or shall I share it from here?
We're running into some technical difficulties. Could we begin with the next speaker and come back?
Okay, you don't want me to share the video from here either?
If you're able to, yes, that would be great.
Okay, hang on. Let's see. I'll be able to. Yep. But then, are you able to record that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Got the things up.
Make sure you select share sound.
Oh yeah. I don't think I can share because only one person can share. That's why. Never mind. Wait for yourself. Yes, because oh no, hang on, sorry. I think I could yep. Can you guys see my screen? No? Oh, sorry.
No, not at the moment. Now, it's working now.
But now? Okay. Shall we play it now? Cool. Let's start.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Stanley Chen, a science fiction author. Today, I'm gonna share with you with this title, Why Climate Fiction Matters. Let's start with this cliche yet effective imagery and metaphor. Imagine that we are all like this frog in a slowly boiling pot of water. The temperature rises incrementally, almost imperceptibly, until one day we find ourselves cooked. So how can we wake up and live toward a sustainable and cooler future? How can our technology, our society, and our culture guide us to avoid this tragic destiny? The answer might be to tell the frog a story, but of course, not the conventional stories we used to know.
Sorry, just checking. Is the sound, everything okay? Good, thank you.
Yes.
Climate fiction, or cli-fi, is a genre of literature that explores the potential consequences of anthropogenic climate change on human society and the environment. It has become an increasingly popular and relevant form of storytelling in recent decades due to the intensification of global warming and the growing public awareness of its implications. It gained significant attention in recent years, but back in 1962, the publication of Rachel Carson's Silent Spring marked a turning point in environmental awareness and led to the emergence of a new generation of writers who focused on the relationship between humanity and nature. So during the 1970s and 1980s, climate fiction evolved to reflect growing concerns about pollution, overpopulation, and resource depletion. Keywords from this period include John Browner's The Sheep Look Up and Frank Herbert's Doom, which explore the effects of environmental degradation of human societies. In the 21st century, climate fiction has become increasingly focused on the direct impact of climate change, including sea level rise, extreme weather events, and the collapse of ecosystems. Contemporary cli-fi tends to fall into several subgenres, each with its unique approach to addressing the issue. Dystopian and post-apocalyptic cli-fi often portray bleak, devastated worlds ravaged by climate change, such as Cormac McCarthy's The World. And near-future cli-fi, this genre explore the more immediate consequences of climate fiction, climate change, often focusing on political, social, and economic issues, such as Barbara Kingsolver's flight behavior. Last, optimistic sci-fi, these narratives present more hopeful visions of humanity's ability to adapt to or mitigate climate change. So they often emphasize the role of science, technology, and collective action in addressing environmental challenges, such as Kim Stanley Robinson's recent work, The Ministry for the Future. Me, myself, also explore cli-fi during my debut novel, Waste Time. On the surface, the story is about an American company negotiating with the local government and leaders of a small Chinese island called Silicon Isle, dedicated to e-waste processing. For the representative of Terra Green Recycling, Hitman Scott Brandel, convincing Silicon Isle's local leaders to hand over control of the recycling process in return for promised environmental and quality of life improvements would result in huge financial gain and power over a crucial region in the East. Meanwhile, the leaders attempt to manipulate the negotiations, extract money, power, and resources for themselves, and continue their generation's long view. At the heart of the story, there are migrant e-waste workers who have come to Silicon Isle from countryside after being promised the path to a better life. So this is actually a metaphor for real world. Huiyu in Chinese, Precious Island, which is quite close to my hometown. It used to be the central for e-waste recycling for all those waste shipped from developed countries in EU or America. So it's not about the waste, it's about the economic and geopolitical imbalance. So the difference of e-waste generated in developed versus developing countries is quite large. The poor has to take care of the e-waste for the richer. So it brings out the very profound and sophisticated philosophy of NIMBY, not in my backyard. I put all this learning and mixed feelings into my debut novel, Waste Time. And besides the precocious tale of novel Waste Time, I found it very urgent to have a more optimistic, bright vision for our future, just as me collaborating with Dr. Kai Li, the AI scientist, expert, investor, and very successful entrepreneur on this AI 2041. So we use 10 stories around the world to explore this AI coexisting society in the future. In one of the stories, Dreaming of Plenitude, we discuss how we're going to save the planet with the cryptocurrency and the new society order, and to incentive the younger generation, especially to liberate the imagination and empower the indigenous people with their knowledge and experience. Together with AI and clean energy technologies, we're going to build a better world for the rest of us. Nevertheless, I found it extremely important to educate the younger generation. What is climate change? What is the correlation behind climate change and biodiversity and net zero? That's why I wrote this book, Net Zero Game, for young kids around grade 9 to grade 12. So we explore this journey through time traveling the boy from present day to 2030 and even further to 2060 to witness how all this net zero can be possible with the challenges and changes from individual to collective efforts. This is my forthcoming YA book, Songs of Mount and Sea. So it's talking about a young girl, Su Su, travel with her scientist dad with the big tech company to a minority village in the mountain, try to persuade the villagers to plug into a hyper-complex AI network. So the confrontation between the ecological and traditional thinking with worship the spirit of the mountain, the river, and the tree, with all this technological binary thinking of everything should be super efficient and super useful. So this story is talking about how we can integrate and reconcile with different opinions about the future and imagination. So as the consequences of climate change become more apparent and present, climate fiction will likely continue to evolve in response to the shifting socio-political landscape. The genre's future might be characterized by several developments. First, greater diversity in perspective. So it will increasingly encompass stories from diverse culture and geographic backgrounds, particularly those from regions most affected by climate change, such as the Global South and MAPA. This will lead to a richer and more nuanced understanding of the global impact of climate change and the various ways in which communities adapt and respond. Second, interdisciplinary approaches. Climate fiction will likely continue to incorporate elements from various disciplines, such as science and technology, politics, economics, and arts. So this interdisciplinary nature will enable the genre to explore the complex and interconnected aspect of climate change and its implication for human beings. Third, increased focus on solutions. As the urgency to address the issue intensifies, climate fiction might increasingly emphasize potential solution and strategy for mitigation and adaptation. Fourth, growing mainstream appeal. So climate fiction will likely to become more prevalent in mainstream literature, film, television, and maybe video game. As impact of climate change become more apparent and public concern increases, this increased visibility to further raise awareness and inspire collective action to address the issue. So in the world where
All right, Colin, could you unmute?
to light the way toward a brighter, more sustainable, and compassionate future. Thank you.
Thank you. That was an interesting perspective from climate fiction, why climate fiction matters. So now we have Professor Sarah Montano. Sarah, with experience of 22 plus years in higher education, serves as the Deputy Director of Education, Digital, for the College of Social Science at University of Birmingham. As a first-generation student, Sarah passionately leads digital education and distant learning initiatives. Awarded the highest accolade in teaching, that is National Teaching Fellowship in 2023, her research spans across retail marketing, digital pedagogy, and enhancing graduate employability, reflecting her commitment to educational excellence and innovation. Next slide, please. Sarah's title today is How to Future-Proof Higher Education and Future Graduates. In a world of AI, how analytics and operations can become in-demand human skill. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Colin, and thank you for that quite wonderful introduction. I thought you were talking about someone else. It was really lovely. So thank you very much. And thank you very much for the invitation to join such an esteemed event today and such an esteemed panel as well. So as you mentioned, I'm Professor Sarah Montano. I'm a professor of retail marketing at the University of Birmingham here in the United Kingdom. And when you kindly invited me to do this talk, I thought what might be interesting to talk about. And one of the things that I'm working on at the moment is a large-scale university project looking at AI and employability skills, and looking at what that means for our future graduates. And that's really built on about 15 years work, which I'd done prior to that, which has always been looking at employability skills. May I have the next slide, please? So I'm going to mainly talk around my slides. Hopefully there's not too much content on the slides. So I'm really going to talk wide around them. So I'm going to talk a bit about the context. I'm going to talk a bit about the so-called paradox that we're seeing now, the human skills, and then I'll just summarize with some final thoughts. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, a lot of what I do at the moment is really sort of, been over many years of my career. And prior to academia, I worked in retail. So it's probably no surprise that that really informs the work that I've done. And one of the things I've been particularly keen on in my career, and I've really endeavored to do, is to ensure that our graduates actually graduate with employability skills that are what employers are looking for. Because having spent so long in the retail sector and then coming into academia, I realized fairly rapidly there was quite a difference between theory and practice. And actually what students need when they go into the world of work is not necessarily to be able to write great 3,000-word essays, but actually to be able to demonstrate that they have a number of critical skills. So, but at the same time, what we're seeing is students graduating with a narrative is that there's not actually going to be any work for them. AI is going to take all our jobs, although as someone who remembered about 25 years ago being told I wasn't have a job because technology was going to do it all for me and I was going to have all my leisure time. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm still waiting for that one to happen, because not only do we get emails, we now get Teams as well at the same time. But also there is this kind of sense now, I think, as we've moved away a little bit from the panic in academia over GAI, or generative artificial intelligence, rather than artificial intelligence in its broadest sense, that we're now really focusing on, what do we bring to the table as humans that actually AI can't do at the moment. And as Colin very kindly said, I was overawed last year to get a National Teaching Fellowship, and that's really based on over a decade's work, which has been done around authentic assessments. So I've created a lot of digital assessments for our students where they can really demonstrate these types of employability skills that are actually needed. And then the icing on the cake was a principal fellowship and leading that digital work across the institution. And if I can always put up a picture of retail, I like to add one. So that was a nice one that I thought I could find. And I think for me, as we're focusing on analytics and operations, and I will say this a little bit later on, perhaps more when I conclude my presentation, but for me, there is something profoundly human about retail. And for me, retail has always been about people, and analytics and operations actually don't take that away. But let's have a bit of a look at what this actually means for employability skills for students. So next slide, please. So this is what our students are faced with. This is from our government's data set here in the United Kingdom. And we know that there is going to be an impact on employability on various different roles. And depending what role you're doing, there may or may not be a stronger or a less significant impact. And I think this is particularly troubling for our graduates that go into those entry-level roles. And we're certainly seeing some of those activities in those entry-level roles be automated. So, you know, for example, looking at, you know, scheduling social media posts and kind of things like that. All of these things are now being automated. If I can go to the next slide. So this is what our students are hearing in the narrative, is that Forrester is saying that AI is going to replace about 2.4 million jobs, headcounts of a reduction about 5%. Bloomberg have done some analysis and said graduates are suffering the worst job market, and particularly in the retail sector, we're looking at significant reductions due to the improvements that we see in operations, etc. And I think when you're a graduate and you're just seeing that laid out on the slide, I think that's particularly troubling. We know as our graduates were either finishing school or they were starting university during COVID, we know that we have you know, many students suffering mental health difficulties. They have high levels of anxiety. So this isn't helping. You know, they're already troubled, and now we're telling them you spent 3 years at university and you're not actually going to get a job. So I think it is incumbent upon ourselves as academics, as those who are supporting the next generation of employees, to ensure that we do give them the graduate skills that they require. And may I have the next slide, please? And then we do get told as well. So it's not only students and our graduates that are told we're doing the wrong thing, that actually we're not giving the right employability skills, whether that's for the fourth industrial revolution, it's for the green economy. The UK government talks about literacy gaps, and the CMI is the Chartered Management Institute, which, as its name suggests, it does a lot of research with leading employers. So we're both being told we're not doing the right thing. So much of my work has been to actually answer this question and to say, actually, the students that I'm working with, they do have the required employability skills, and I can help them demonstrate that to employers. Next slide, please. So there are some paradoxes that we're actually now seeing, that actually, even though we're increasing our automation, these what we're calling the so-called human skills are actually becoming more important, because this is the thing that we can use to differentiate ourselves. There's certainly some early research that employers are recognizing this. I say I'm in the middle of a great big research project at the moment, talking to a number of leading employers. And that actually, we know that some employers are starting to find suitable candidates, and we're like, well, hang on, we've got quite a lot of them in our institutions at the moment. So if we get this right, we can solve quite a number of problems. And also McKinsey have done some work very recently in that what employers are looking for are these sort of the social and emotional skills, which, as I say, Copilot isn't really that friendly towards you at the moment. When you put something in, it's like, I'm really sorry, I can't find it, but that's not really going to support you, as perhaps we, as I've mentioned, we support many of our students, you know, during some of their, you know, really great personal difficulties and their journey through university. May I have the next slide, please? So these are the types of human skills. This was me trying to work with Copilot to try and get something that was vaguely on a human skill. Took quite a lot of effort for Copilot, but I can't draw, so I'm afraid it was either Copilot or a square box somewhere. But the human skills that we're really looking for that enable our graduates to stand out are creativity, critical thinking, communication, teamwork, problem solving, digital skills, and ethical skills. And I would say in particular, ethical skills are coming very strongly at the moment. I think there is a really clear motto: just because we can do something, it doesn't mean to say that we should do it. And it's getting our students to recognize not only what technology is doing, but actually what might be the perhaps unintended consequences of whatever organizations may choose to do so. I can go to the next slide. I think I'm okay for time, Colin. Not doing okay for time?
Yes.
Great, yes. Thanks. So I wanted to focus just really on analytics and operations, as that's the focus of our session. So as I said, I spent years in retail, and of course, retail is all about the operational flow of activities, that they have to happen in a certain order for us to be able to get a product from a field packaged into the supermarket, ready for a customer to buy. And alongside that, we are seeing more analytical data than ever that we've had. I was very lucky to be working in retail in the United Kingdom at the start of loyalty cards. So I've always been quite excited by the generation of the data and what the data gave me. But I think with both of these things, as I mentioned at the start, there are people at the end of this. So when we're talking about our students and what they need, and we're talking about operations and why these are future skills, because if I'm a parent who's stood in the middle of the supermarket, I'm tired from my long day at work. The children have decided they don't like peas this week, even though they liked them 2 days ago. The cost of living crisis here in the United Kingdom is also very profound. And we have families who are literally choosing between heating their homes and actually being able to eat. So if I've got all of that on top of me, I need a retailer to help me make the best decision that I can, but not to actually take their data and to just try and sell me something extra because I might, be thinking about an adjacent kind of product. And I think that's my particular call to action, is that as we move through this technology, we have to remember the human beings at the end of it. And I have one last slide, Colin, just to talk through. And I think this is why these human skills are so important, because life is more than just technology. And we saw that as we emerged from COVID, that people wanted to be out socializing, seeing people, that data is not just sufficient in itself. We need to turn that into analysis and strategy. And actually, these are broader conversations around what we want our cities of the future to look like, what we want our communities, our high streets, because once these have gone, it's going to be very, very difficult to get them back. So we need our graduates to emerge with human skills and to always think of people. And I just added a few of the sustainable goals that I think are particularly relevant. And that is the end of my presentation, because the last slide was just a thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for your session, How to Future-Proof of HE and Future Graduates in a World of AI, on how analytics and operation can become in-demand human skill. Now, while trying to wait for Dale, have not got any information, so hopefully everything is fine for him and could turn up. And we just jump over for now to Joshua. Just waiting for the slide to be pulled up. Yes, Joshua Wilson. Joshua is an associate professor of education at the University of Delaware, who is a leading expert in automated writing evaluation and AI in education. As co-editor of the Roulette International Handbook of Automated Essay Evaluation, Joshua's influential research published in top-tier journals. The journals are backed by prestigious funders, including the US Department of Education, Gates Foundation, and Spencer Foundations. Joshua's work continuously pushes the boundaries of education technology and assessment. Next slide, please. So Joshua is going to talk to us on adopting AI in management education, ethical and responsible practices to enhance human skill. Over to you, Josh.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, and it's an honor to be here. And thank you for our attendees for listening. Sarah, this will dovetail nicely with where you left off, so perhaps things work out the way they're supposed to. Just before I begin, I want to share a document with everyone. The principles that I'll be discussing in this come from a document that my colleagues and I, as you saw there on the title slide, I was one of the appointed co-chairs of our university's AI for Teaching and Learning Working Group, where our task was to advise the university and its faculty and instructors on best practices, so to speak, on how to integrate AI within teaching and learning, how to transform education in this generative AI age. That document I just chatted, it's available. We did publish it under a Creative Commons license, so feel free to use, repurpose, and otherwise have it be helpful to you. Okay, next slide, please. So I'm excited to discuss the evolving landscape of artificial intelligence in management education today. As AI continues to revolutionize various sectors, it's imperative that we explore both the opportunities and challenges it presents to our field. The integration of AI into management education is not just about adopting new technologies and prioritizing efficiency and financial gain, although there is quite a promise with that with AI. It is about doing so in a way that is ethical and responsible. This involves ensuring transparency, mitigating biases, protecting data privacy, and enhancing educational effectiveness. So today I will be discussing, the discussion today closely aligns with the Principles for Responsible Management Education, or PRIME, which emphasize responsible management education, research, and thought leadership. Moreover, it supports the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, particularly in promoting quality education, which is the 4th goal, reducing inequalities, the 10th, and fostering innovation, the 9th. By adhering to these principles, we can ensure that AI tools are used in ways that not only improve educational outcomes, but also uphold our commitment to sustainability, responsibility, and inclusivity. Next slide, please. So in management education, operation and analytics are key disciplines that play a crucial role in shaping future leaders. By teaching students how to analyze data and streamline operations, we equip them with the skills needed to make informed decisions that enhance efficiency and effectiveness in various organizational contexts. This directly supports PRIME's Principle 3, Teach, which calls for creating educational frameworks, materials, processes, and environments that enable effective learning experiences. Moreover, these disciplines are vital in promoting sustainability and inclusivity. Through the lens of operations and analytics, students learn to identify and implement sustainable practices. This includes reducing waste, optimizing resource use, and ensuring that business practices are environmentally friendly. These efforts align with the UN SDGs, particularly Goal 12, Responsible Consumption and Production, and Goal 13, Climate Action. Analytics also plays a significant role in fostering inclusivity by providing insights into diverse populations and identifying areas where inclusivity can be improved. This is in line with PRIME's Principle 2, or Values, which emphasize the incorporation of global social responsibility into academic activities and curricula. By integrating operations and analytics, specifically within management education, we are not only adhering to educational standards, but also embracing the principles of sustainability, responsibility, and inclusivity. This comprehensive approach ensures that our graduates are well equipped to tackle global challenges and lead with a sense of purpose and responsibility. Next slide, please. Artificial intelligence, or AI, and now we're sort of in the age of generative AI, as Sarah said, has the potential to significantly enhance human skills and talents in management education. By leveraging AI, we can create more effective and engaging learning experiences that cater to the diverse needs of our students. First, AI can enable personalized learning. AI-driven adaptive learning technologies can tailor educational content to the individual needs and learning needs of each student. This ensures that students receive the right level of challenge and support, enhancing their overall learning experience. AI can also facilitate collaborative learning environments. AI tools can support teamwork and cooperation by providing platforms that encourage communication, collaboration, and knowledge sharing among students. For example, AI-powered project management tools can help students coordinate group projects more efficiently, while AI chatbots can facilitate discussions and answer questions in real time. This fosters a collaborative learning environment that aligns with PRIME's Principle 7, Share, which emphasizes sharing successes and failures with each other. Furthermore, AI can promote critical thinking and creativity. AI tools can stimulate innovative thinking by presenting students with complex problems and scenarios that require creative solutions. For instance, AI-driven simulations and games can immerse students in real-world challenges, encouraging them to think critically and derive innovative solutions. This approach supports PRIME's Principle 2 values by fostering a culture of creativity and critical thinking that is essential for responsible management education. By integrating AI into management education in these ways, we can enhance these human skills, preparing our students to become innovative and responsible leaders who can tackle the complex challenges of our present, as Stanley said, and our future. Next slide, please. Adopting AI in management education brings a wealth of opportunities, but it also comes with significant responsibilities. To harness the benefits of AI while safeguarding ethical standards, we must adhere to key principles of ethical AI adoption. First and foremost, transparency is crucial. We must ensure that there is clear communication about the AI tools being used, their capabilities, and their limitations. This openness helps build trust among students and educators, so that transparency needs to go both ways. Students need to be transparent to educators and educators with their students, allowing them to understand and effectively utilize AI technologies. Transparency aligns with PRIME's Principle 1, Purpose, which emphasizes the importance of responsible management education. Next is bias mitigation. AI systems can inadvertently perpetuate existing biases if not carefully managed. By proactively addressing and minimizing biases in AI algorithms, we ensure that all students and the people they ultimately work with and serve in their careers will be treated fairly and equitably. This principle resonates with PRIME's Principle 2 values, which again calls for incorporating global social responsibility into academic activities and curricula. Data privacy is another critical aspect. Protecting students' personal information is paramount as we integrate AI into education. We must implement robust data privacy measures to safeguard sensitive information and comply with legal and ethical standards. This commitment to privacy reflects PRIME's Principle 6 practice, which advocates for adopting responsible and accountable management principles. Furthermore, educational effectiveness is essential. AI tools should genuinely enhance learning outcomes, not undermine them, which is a concern that educators have, of course. They need to provide personalized learning experiences, foster collaboration, and ideally promote critical thinking and creativity, and the human skills that Sarah was talking about as well. This focus on educational effectiveness ties into PRIME's Principles 3 and 4, Teach and Research, by ensuring that our teaching and research activities are both credible and impactful. So by focusing on transparency, bias mitigation, data privacy, and educational effectiveness, we can ensure that AI serves as a tool to enhance human skills and talents, preparing our students to become responsible, ethical leaders in their field. Next slide. In sum, as we move forward and look to the future of AI and management education, there are several key actions we need to take to ensure success. First, enhancing human skills through AI is essential. Personalized learning, fostering collaborative environments, and promoting critical thinking and creativity and ethical reasoning are key areas where AI can make a significant impact on educational outcomes. Second, Embracing ethical AI adoption is crucial. We have to focus on transparency, bias mitigation, data privacy, and educational effectiveness to ensure responsible and effective use of AI tools. Third, aligning our efforts with PRIME's principles and the UN's Sustainable Development Goals will help us navigate these ethical and practical challenges of integrating AI into our curricula. This alignment ensures that our actions contribute to a more sustainable and inclusive future. Additionally, we need to prepare future leaders who are capable of addressing global challenges. By equipping them with the skills and knowledge to leverage AI responsibly, we can ensure that they are ready to lead in an increasingly complex world and ensure that AI serves as a powerful tool for positive change. So together, we can shape a future where AI enhances human potential and contributes to a more sustainable and inclusive world. Next slide. And thank you very much. I look forward to continuing this important conversation with you as we move into the Q&A later.
Thank you, Joshua, for your topic of adopting AI in management education, ethical and responsible practices to enhance human skill. Next up. Thank you, Xian. Next slide, please. I believe it is myself. Hi, I'm Colin. I'm currently Program Director of MSc Business Analytics at Surrey Business School and appointed as an Associate Professor at UCL. Next slide, please. My topic today is on a cognitive AI framework to shape future-ready minds. Now, I believe what I talk is going to be a complement to what both speakers have spoken earlier. Next slide, please. Now, a lot of us know and definitely heard of Bloom taxonomy. Now, Bloom taxonomy is a thinking framework that has been applied and taught to students, I believe, in most of the education arena. Now, what Bloom taxonomy try to demonstrate is how human, in general, or more specifically, students could actually improve their thinking capacity. For example, we start from the very low level, that is remember, and then the skill of understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. That is the one, the image on the left. Now, in 2022, that was when generative AI was released and shocked the whole world in a good or bad sense. I was actually looking at the Bloom taxonomy. Now, it suddenly came across me, hang on, if generative AI is that powerful, then do we human really still need to remember anything? Because AI already gives us the ability to store and to retrieve information without even wasting our hard drive space. We can just type in a command, whatever, and get whatever that given to us in the speed of a lightning compared to Google. Okay. And then I also wonder, how about application? Anything that can be repeated can be done by AI or robots, as what we have seen portrayed or demonstrated by NVIDIA in their recent launch of various robots. So I was pondering what's going to happen in the era of AI. And hence, I created another new framework based on Bloom taxonomy, which I called it Cognitive AI Framework on the right. Now, as you can see, I literally replace, remember, and apply. So my framework started from the lowest hierarchy, that's explore. That means student or human being in general, we try to understand the problem at hand, we try to resolve, and then we try to explore how are we going to solve that issue by prompting or by asking questions to the generative AI. And then moving on to the next level, engage. While we're prompting and questioning the AI, we are continuously engaging with the AI to collaborate to come up with a solution. Some people call that as co-creation. And then obviously, whatever that's been given to us by generative AI, it is very important that we human beings could examine the somewhat factual of the information that's been given to us, that is analyzing and evaluating what is being given to us. And then with all this information, when we are happy and satisfied, what being given to us is somewhat factual, and then we can decide and create maybe a new set of solution. That's why I called it as formulate. With all this, then we reflect on whatever that we've been given or what we've been co-create with the AI, whether it's ethical, whether it's in line with our values or society value. That's why I call it reflect. So the higher you go, the more critical a person who uses this framework needs to be. Next slide, please. Now, if we link that to prime principle, 7 principle, that we have purpose, advance RME to foster inclusive prosperity. That is the big purpose. That obviously links to the value. It's focused on organizational responsibility and accountability. Okay, we can talk about the 3 P's: planet, people, and profit. Now, then how are we going to integrate all this value for us to teach our students in the normal curriculum or pedagogy? We study, or students study, to inspire responsible management and education practice. That is research. Obviously, all this will not happen if we do not have partners. That's why we engage with relevant people, stakeholders, to advance this responsible and accountable management, education, and practice. And then we put all this into practice so that then we can enhance our collective learning for common values and purpose. This is in a nutshell about the prime 7 principles. Next slide, please. If we take all this and see how is that going to correlate or going to be implemented in my cognitive AI framework. Now, if you see on the right, that is literally the prime principle. So in terms of explore, can we explore the implication of RME through AI-driven insight using analytics? This is a section of analytics and operation. Now, will students be able to do that? And then we academics, are we able to engage students to understand and to practice organizational responsibility? Organizational here, I don't mean just institution. It could be our collective responsibility in a society or in an organization through AI collaboration. And then obviously, like what I mentioned earlier, are we able to examine the output? Because this is analytics and operation, can we analyze the output or examine the output analytically in the context of RME, again, to foster critical thinking? This allows us then to use AI research to formulate innovative and ethical solutions. And then when we do all this, in our reflex level, are we able to partner with diverse stakeholders for ethical use of AI and to practice it responsible AI management for collective learning and improvement? That, not in a nutshell, it matches the prime principle. And then on the left, we have the I5. Are we then able to connect AI to student background interest for meaningful exploration? So obviously, if we get interested, if the student get interested, they are more likely to engage with the whole process. For then, we coach the student to engage with AI joyfully for their emotional intelligence and well-being. During this process, it's not only us, we build a supportive environment for them, but they themselves would be able to interact among peers to examine the AI output. So not necessarily they have to examine the output on their own, but with their peers, with us. And then we can actively involve students because everybody is so getting into it. The student will be actively involved to formulate AI-based solution for them to design iterative experiences to reflect on AI's practices. Next slide, please. Now, this to me is a new learning experience. It is hoped that with this, students or even us will build on our ability to analyze, to solve problems, and to have ethical reasoning. So in a way, it translates the passive learning to become active. This to me modernize the teaching methods, not only for academia, but also for students to have reflective learning, to help them to create knowledge to help them to apply theory with practice, they can get instant feedback and customized content. Next slide, please. I can see that by applying this, students, or in general human being, can transfer from pedagogy to heutagogy. Pedagogy is where a teacher-led study curriculum. Andragogy means a student-led study curriculum. Heutagogy means student will take fully control of what is happening and what they want to learn. That is what we call empowering learners. Next slide, please. It is hoped that neurodiversity will be a reality in one day. For people that are applying this concept, they will be able to learn it by themselves. That is reaching from pedagogy via through all the way through heutagogy via andragogy. Next slide, please. To me, a new era of learning is coming. Obviously, thanks to generative AI. So again, that is the framework that I propose. Explore, engage, examine, formulate, and reflect. This framework has been presented in many international conferences. So it is hoped that I can take this forward together with everybody that believe in the new era of learning. Next slide, please. I believe is the end of my talk. So thank you very much. Now, Q&A. Does any participant have any question to type in for us? Any panel to type in the Q&A sessions? Give it 1 minute. Nope. No. I have a question then. Start from Sarah. Now, Sarah. Oops, let me stop the timer. In the age of generative AI, what do you believe will be the most demand skill? I'm sure you have some conversation with your colleagues and students. Joshua, chip in anytime, okay? And any participant, by all means, please add your comment.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Colin. And I think it's increasingly important for us to help students understand the difference, almost sort of like pre-AI and post-AI, because as you and Joshua have articulated, the landscape, the educational landscape is going to look very different. And I think we really have to help students navigate this. And I think it comes back to sort of part of my presentation. For me, the critical skills are going to be the things that AI can't do. So they're going to be things like building teams, being able to network. We can get AI to kind of summarize all the negotiated contracts from the last 20 years and identify what are going to be the core principles. But actually, that's great. And we can do that efficiently. But we can spend a lot more time on building those human connections. And I think absolutely really understanding what makes people work. And I think sometimes that gets missed. And I think I certainly see that a lot in retail data. So I was talking to one of my students today and I was telling her a story, and I am going back a couple of decades here. You know, we're practically in the dark ages. There's some dinosaurs outside and things like that. And I was telling her about one Christmas in the store. And Christmas was at an odd time of the year. It was like a Wednesday or a Thursday or something. It was a really weird time of the year. And two of my colleagues were completely baffled as to why certain products had sold out, because it was Christmas, so they always get factored down. The data tells them, factor this down, you're going to sell less. And I overheard them and I said, well, these products are selling because, you know, people are making this type of food in this type of day. There's still like 3 days to go till Christmas. You're going to need to have busy meals. And it hadn't dawned on them that predominantly, you know, we're going back a couple of days, but it would be predominantly women were actually working out how to make a number of meals last. So they were still buying these products. And for me, that's absolutely, as we move forward, what it's about. It's about our humanity. And, you know, we aren't just numbers at the end of a spreadsheet.
Thank you, Sarah. Josh, coming to you, regarding your session earlier. Let me see. So, what might you say to motivate management education who are hesitant about integrating generative AI into their institution?
Yes, thank you. That's a good question. So this session, you have a number of, you know, all three of us are sort of, we're sort of leaning into it. And we understand that there are risks, and we're sort of taking those risks on, but we're not shying away. But many of my colleagues, and I'm sure some of yours and some of maybe of our attendees, professors, or if they're professors, maybe themselves, feel an urge to sort of wish it didn't happen, wish students did not have access to tools that could potentially undermine their learning, where we'll not have a world where students need to read and write anymore. Potentially, those are fears that I've heard expressed. And so when I think about talking to people who are hesitant about engaging with AI, some of the first things that come to mind are, after acknowledging their fears, I mean, that people have been teaching a long time. It's creating a change. And Colin, your last presentation really expressed that. Like, you're showing a whole different way of teaching, from pedagogy to andragogy to, I didn't even know that word before. Hudagogy. Yeah, that's really cool. And so so first of all, I think we need to take the stance that leaning into AI and really thinking about how it can be embedded within education might improve educational outcomes. It might not just be all awful. We might improve educational outcomes. There be ways to, like I said, improve personalized learning, collaboration, critical thinking, perhaps enjoyment, and truly inspire learning. And the second is really that AI is here, like it or not. This is the world we are in, and this is the world that we need to prepare our students to be engaged in, both as people who are going to enter the world of work, but also enter the world of citizenship. And that humanity, it's that paradox, as Sarah said. As AI has increased, I think we need to be thinking equally much as our humanity needs to increase. And so there's no benefit as educators to not exposing students to AI tools, because then they don't have a chance to understand their limitations, their risks, the potential negative consequences of using them without critical thinking. And so ultimately, those are the kind of tacks I would take, is that it might improve educational, might actually help you do what you're trying to do. And also we have a responsibility, an ethical responsibility, I'd say, as educators, to produce the next generation of individuals to make our world better. And AI is going to be part of that world.
Now, I'm sure we all know that Microsoft, the full suite of Microsoft Copilot could actually do the chart for us from Excel, could help us to produce the PowerPoint. But then I also realized that a lot of universities have not adopted that yet, even though we have a Copilot. So it's not a full suite of Copilot. I'm not sure whether is that the same for Birmingham and for Delaware. So my question, obviously following from that to Sarah, is, do you still believe that at the end of the spreadsheet or a set of data analysis, because you talk about data analytic, right, there is a need for a human?
Absolutely. And I think data, you know, until you actually interpret that data, it's just numbers that exist. So again, if you think about, you know, like loyalty cards, they tell you about, you know, family sizes, they tell you about food preferences, they tell you about your favorite time of day to shop. So I think, and unless you actually look at it through a human lens, then actually, essentially, your data is meaningless. Because in my sector, when you've got that data, you've got to turn that into some kind of meaningful strategy, and you're only going to turn that into a meaningful strategy if you can start to anticipate into 2 or 3 years time how people are going to behave. And a really interesting trend that we're seeing is actually, as people spend more time on their phones and sort of more engagement with social media, we're seeing a direct contrast where we're seeing a massive increase in the crafting movement. So we're seeing lots of people, I do crochet, so I'm not a crocheter, but like knitting, embroidery, all those sorts of skills have undergone a massive resurgence because people want to be able to, do something that's kind of practical. So I think absolutely a number is just a number until it has a human lens.
Thank you. Now, Joshua, I know you yourself are very into auto grading. Am I correct to say that?
Auto grading. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, a very controversial issue in the United Kingdom. I believe it's the same in Birmingham. Yeah, I think America is more acceptable to that concept. Now, the general argument is if students are not allowed to use generative AI, just basically means just to copy and paste, right? Basically take everything from AI and then dump that into the answer. If students are not allowed to do that, okay, I'm not saying that by stopping them, okay, but it's literally just copy and paste.
Yeah.
If students are not allowed to do that, then why would the educator be allowed to use AI autograder to grade their assessment piece, so be it formative or summative? Now, I know you done great work in that area. Do you mind enlighten us a little bit on that, please?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And so my short answer is the professor shouldn't. My bit longer answer is that the level of human involvement should, with auto grading, and I think AI in general, this argument would probably apply to AI in general. The level of human involvement and oversight needs to be proportional to the stakes attached to the outcomes. So a low stakes, formative, like true formative assessment, where a student submits a discussion post or submits something for feedback, perhaps that could be fully automated because the student won't have any negative consequences if the AI is wrong, if the AI is biased, if the AI is miscalibrated in some degree. They might not get great feedback, but ultimately, that's the stakes of, like, let's say, versus like failing a course or dropping out or having their comprehensive exams never read and just fully graded by a human, an automated scoring system without any human oversight. That shouldn't happen. So the way I think about it is, as the stakes increase, there needs to be human involvement. Now, does that mean there are some situations where automated scoring is never okay? Possibly. In the US, where we think about, I do a lot of work with K-12 education, so as they go elementary, middle school, high school, and our state assessments are often scored, their writing assessments are scored by computer. But what happens is there's at least some percentage of those are checked by humans to ensure that the computer is scoring correctly. And there are a number of sort of fail-safe devices to flag items that might not be reliably scored by a computer. So in the context of the university, I wouldn't want there to ever be a point where we joke around, we say, have your AI talk to my AI and I'll see you at the end of the semester. We don't want that. However, there might be ways that professors could use automated scoring to help them get a sense of the collective needs of their class. Like maybe everyone is falling down in a certain category, which should prompt, like the professor could use automated scoring for their own formative purposes to improve their instruction rather than having it be consequential to the student. So that's kind of how I think about it conceptually. Sarah, do you in your university or in any of your courses, what are your thoughts on that? I'm curious about what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really, interesting one. And I think often these conversations are like, well, it's like trying to turn off the internet. Like, we can't, we kind of, we are where we are. I think for me, I try and look at it from kind of what's the situation that we're trying to solve here, and where do we want to be, and what could we use that could actually help make that better. So I think, like, every institution, we have a virtual learning environment, we have a number of plugins, there's various different tools and different partners that are with that VLE, some of which are moving more towards sort of like AI supported marketing, particularly for things that are more quants than qualitative kind of based. I played around with Copilot, and I created a new assignment. I just created the assignment that I would normally give students, and I asked AI to write me a rubric. So for qualitative assignments, we normally have a rubric, and then we can create drop-down boxes and things like that for students. And I asked it to do it for various grades, and actually I thought it was pretty decent. Actually, it was all right. And I thought, well, that's actually quite a good use, because it's doing things beforehand. I've set everything up. If I was new to this course or a new lecturer, this could actually be quite time saving. I could recognize it was quite good after experience. So I'm not saying you wouldn't want to make, you'd still need your checks and balances. But I think, as we move to kind of sort of like looking at kind of like, NLPs and things like that, I think there's tools that can help us. So, like everything, it's like, how is this tool going to help me? We don't collect handwritten assignments in anymore. And we'd all probably go, why did we even used to do that? That's like, how much time? Oh, and I used to have to carry them home and all of those things. I used to have to write out the same thing, 150 times. So I think absolutely. And I think if we can, as we move forward with the advances, if, we can, academics can have, as Copilot says, it's your co-pilot. It's not the pilot, it's a co-pilot. If we can look at things saying, well, out of the 100 assignments, these are the most common errors. We've identified that, these are the most frequently used words that students have said and kind of things like that. I think that's really helpful to start. But I don't think, well, it's always dangerous to predict the future, but I think there will always be a place for the academic to do that human bit. Is, look, I've read your assignment, these are the things you're going to need to kind of work on. And I don't think at the moment Copilot is anywhere remotely near that. But also I often, and this will be the final point, because I appreciate that was an exceptionally long answer. I think I often think back, I mean, I wasn't around in ancient Greece. I should just say that, just in case anyone's wondering what type of skincare I am using. But I often think about kind of like Socrates and things like that. And I was like, yeah, the lecture hasn't really changed that much in several thousand years. And I think because we're humans, there will always be a place for us to want to hear and talk to other people.
Nice. Yeah, well said. And what you said too reminded me, it's like division of labor. Like it's not to remove human labor, but to have a different division of labor to help the faculty member do what they want to do or achieve their goal. Yeah,
now,
nice.
On that note, I know some of my colleagues would say that, oh yes, that is all good and great, right? But I'm teaching, for example, literature, so I can use that. You are teaching programming, so it's easy to use that, because whatever code that you have used it, fine, you can ask ChatGPT, Google Gemini to give you the code, whatever, and then you put into the compiler. Now it's not necessarily working, so it helped the production. But in a linguistic relevant type of modules and courses and stuff like that, it can just write a long essay for you, and then that's it, done deal. Now, what is your take, both of you? What is your take on this? Do you believe this is subject specific for using AI in certain way, to a certain extent?
I
Go on.
I have a thought on that, and then I see Xian has a question too. But I in talking, so we did interviews with a number of our faculty instructors at the university this semester about asking them their fears and thoughts on AI. And I will say that the reactions are we do definitely see more fear in the humanities, where you're directly teaching language skills. Also, I would also say the corollary to that in the STEM is if you're directly teaching coding. So if you're directly teaching a language skill, developing reading skills, writing skills, coding skills, and you're teaching the fundamentals, you're worried about AI because it could just take away the need to learn the language. We have seen a trend though, if you're someone who is teaching a discipline where you're using language or you're using skills to solve problems. If you're in engineering, if you're in material science, if you're in management education, financial literacy, where these are tools to do reasoning, you're less, the faculty have been less afraid of the risks of AI to undermining their intentions because they're trying to teach critical thinking, not language skills. So that's one observation I have to share.
Thank you. Sarah? What's your
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I don't obviously teach history or English, so I won't comment really on those. But I think absolutely, there is that level of risk. But I think then it's incumbent on ourselves as academics to think about what our assessments look like. And if you have an assessment that even as of today is very producible by AI, then I think we need to be looking and we need to be asking ourselves, well, is that assignment fit for purpose? And how do we create assignments that mean that students can articulate these higher level skills that they're going to be asked about at interview?
Thank you. Thank you. Xian, sorry, miss your raised hand. Go ahead.
No problem. Yeah, I really love where the conversation is going, and thank you guys for all your thoughts, and forgive me for breaking the fourth wall here.
Yeah,
But as a former educator, I get more concerned about kind of like the effect on educational experiences as a whole. So kind of taking a step back from summative formative assessments and things, but like, how does using AI for evaluation, like Joshua mentioned, like affect connections between educator and student, and like how could that impact students feeling motivated in the classroom, students feeling like seen and cared for by educators, and how could that have ripple effects on like research engagement and job prospects in the future and things. So just want to know, like, is that something people in your spheres are talking about? Does it go that far? Things like that. Would love to hear your thoughts.
That's such a great question. I definitely have something to say, but I went first last time. So Sarah or Colin, if you want to start.
Colin,
Sarah,
who do you want to
go
go
ahead.
for? Okay, yeah. I mean, I think that's a fantastic question, and I think it's something we need to be really mindful of. And I think it goes back to some of the things that we've said, is that actually, if we can kind of automate and we can free some things up that give us time, then I've actually got more time to spend hands-on in the I'm going to use the classroom, but broadly, but in the lecture space, in the seminar room, and I've got more time doing potential sort of like one-to-one support, because I think absolutely that's what education is about. It's about nurturing people at whatever level that it actually is. And that's, again, I always think about the transition from teaching, trying to do your lectures online during COVID, and like just feeling so relieved when we were back in a lecture theatre, because it's such a physical thing. Teaching, it's a real physical thing, and you can feel in the room whether people are with you, whether they've completely gone, I've got no idea what she's saying, and you pick up all these kind of subtleties. So if we're automating marking, which takes a huge amount of time, and I'm not, as the previous conversation, I'm not suggesting we automate everything, but if there is a time saving there, then that time saving allows me to do something better with that time.
Josh, you want to go ahead first, or?
Sure. Yeah, I have similar comments. And Cian, that's a great question, and something I've been thinking about, again, referencing my work in the sort of K-12 space. One of the things we know and in the US, and I'd be curious if it was outside the US and the UK too, is educators are increasingly burned out, and they're doing more, there's more on their plates than ever before, beyond just fostering intellect and fostering skills and competencies. A lot of it is trying to support students' emotional well-being. So many students are experiencing trauma, and the undergrads too. There's much more mental health incidences of mental health challenges. So my thought is, just picking up again on what Sarah said, is the goal of the faculty or the instructor or the educator shouldn't be to reduce their effort to zero and sit back and allow their education to be their role to be automated away, and they're sort of programming their thing. They should be strategic about finding ways to free up space to address the challenges that are most unique to them, that they're able to do, and also that are most necessary for students. So what my biggest vision would be, hopefully with AI, going back to this idea that the paradox of with AI we could be more human, perhaps if we're not, with more time or with some of the drudgery of education automated to help us, we could be more emotionally present for our students in ways that inspire them, can meet their needs in ways that, right, at least hopefully that won't be ever done with an AI, although I know AI has been doing therapy. But I think that human connection, what I'm hoping, I guess I'll just summarize there, that really the human connection can be lit higher than it is now, because it's sort of dimmed by some of the drudgery of the educational process.
Now, for me, right, I think it's totally right. For example, I teach a module called machine learning, but it's not to data scientists, but to business analyst students. Now, for me, the purpose of, for example, a module like AI and machine learning, it depends on who the students are. If they're from data science or if they're from business analytics, then the purpose is totally different. For data science students, obviously their main goal is to code, like super duper coding and stuff like that. For business analytics students, their purpose is not to code, but obviously coding help, because at the end of the day, for business analyst students, is how do they interpret the results. Now, the question now that I always have for my student is whether they can ask AI to interpret the results. Okay, so you can have everybody the same thing. Would the interpretation, yes, may be different because AI, the answer is generated randomly, but in the end of the day, is there a need of human input? To me, at this moment in time, I have to say yes. That's why I said to my student who do this machine learning course to me, I said, if you don't use AI, I'll be pretty upset, because you guys are business analytics students. You need to know how to use the tools. Now, to me, again, this may be a transition period, right? Yes, I believe all of us teach students to use AI. However, I believe we also see plagiarism cases or collusion cases gone up. Now, it could be back to the point that what Sarah has mentioned. We academics have to ask ourselves, are our current assessment strategy fit for purpose now? It may fit for purpose before the rise of AI, but now is that still fit for purpose? For example, right, from business point of view, what is the purpose of asking define SWOT analysis? What is Porter 5? Again, now, I mean, in the past, we tend to ask that a lot of questions, right, to understand what that is. But now, does this question even relevant? Okay, so I think that is where the challenge is. I like to believe this situation could improve. As you know, generative AI was just released in 2022. It takes everybody by surprise to the sheer power of that. And one thing that I would say is, obviously, at the moment, everybody is fearful about it because we do not understand the technology. Now, we're talking about identity theft, we're talking about ethics issue. I always say to them, are you saying, people there who say this, are we saying that before generative AI, there is no identity theft, there is no ethical issue? It's the same thing, right? It's just now we use AI as a scapegoat in a way. Okay, that is my take on that. Now, I believe that academia play a very important role. All of us have to look in detail our assessment instrument to check if that is still fit for purpose. Xian, I hope we answer your question to certain extent. And,
Yes,
and good question, by the way.
absolutely. Thank you all.
So 1 more minute to go. Any participant have any more questions? If no, now I seriously like to thank my colleagues here, Joshua, Sarah, and obviously Stanley as well for his kindness to do a pre-recording. And sadly that Dale is not with us today because I've been through his presentation. His presentation is also about a framework, but I believe the slide will be made available so the participant can have a look, and Dale's contact detail and everybody contact detail is on it. Now, Sarah and Joshua, now it is my honor for you guys to be here. I think Prime is so pleased that you are here because this is a perfect platform for experts like yourself to be in this forum to share your insight with everybody. So really, thank you so much. And I hope our path will cross again. Now, before we go, Xian, also thank you for your support. In UK, that is early morning, 1:50. I think Sarah and I tomorrow may not be able to go to the university on time. And Joshua, you just come to your dinner time.
Yeah.
So I believe it's the same for Xian as well. So good night, good morning, wherever you are. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.